Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Lili nishma simi merosi rus bas Mordechai. Welcome to all the guests. I see there's a lot of guys here from NCSY Kol, no? How many? Who's from NCSY Kol? Raise your hand. Here they are, they're coming in. Okay. Beautiful. Just wanted to say that my son and I were Messiah Rosh Hashanah on Tuesday. We started the first day of Chalamayit Pesach because he wanted to have hot dogs during the 9 days. And I was Messiah Beitza last night. Mazel Tov. Thank you for your shiurim. We couldn't have done it without you. When I was in yeshiva, there was a guy that really wanted hot dogs from Chicago. The Romanian hot dogs are something else. So they got together a bunch of Bachrim, and each guy gave like $10, and he got on a flight. He flew to Chicago. No, that was a different story. I'm mixing up stories now. Yeah, that's a doggy story. There's a guy from New York who drove to Chicago and back. Okay, fine. Different story. Different time, different story. There are no words to describe how you inspired me in your daily shiur. This is a Hasidic mishpacha. Look at these kids. Unbelievable. Thursday, the fancy shoes on a weekday. I love it. Thursday is my grandfather's yard side. I sponsor Thursday's Daf Yomi from Yitzchok Ben Yechiel David. Please see attached video of some of his grandchildren saying good morning. Rabbi side, the Landau Eniklach. Thank you, Yisrael Landau. Here goes. This is an email that is super, super long. I can't even, it didn't fit on this page. So even though I said I'm going to read it today, I'm one of the new guys. I live in Karnei Shomron. That's how it starts. It's super long. Rabbi Isai, Moshe Milstein says, hi, Rabbi, here's something I created that I thought you would appreciate. Well, I'm not a Daf Yomi learner yet. I'm absolutely inspired by your shared teaching style and story. Thank you for being part of the hope for our future as people. Check out this picture. I don't know that he did the whole thing from scratch. Some of it's digital. I don't know. But I got it from different people, and finally he sent it to me. Beautiful. Yishkoach Moshe. Mo Landy says, I debated for a while whether to send this email. I figured if it helps one person, it'll be kedai. For a while, every time I went on YouTube to watch the shiur, I would get lost watching random clips for 15-45 minutes before actually getting to the shiur. Not anything bad, but just random comedy, basketball, Jordan Peterson clips. I decided to make a shortcut on my home screen, and he shows you how to do it. Here's the thing. You can add the shiur to the home screen so it bypasses all the Jordan Peterson and Michael Jordan clips. Baruch Hashem, that has helped recoup precious moments in my day. I wanted to share, Rabbi Isai, please, on Fridays, please take your Ritalin before you come. If you're having issues, I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to share that I did with you and think that it might be worth publicizing. Thank you again for all the sacrifices you and your family make so we can have the shiur every day. Shkoyach. Hi Shulem Aleichem Rebelli. Shulem Aleichem. We have never met yet, but one day we will, Be'ez Hashem. I was at Bellworks, couldn't get through. I wanted to say how much my life changed since my friends introduced me to MDY. I was hoping I'll get to meet you in Cape Town. I will not be giving a shiur. Thank you for all you do for the cloud. Let's bring Mashiach Yoeli Friedman. Somebody from Cape Town, I apologize. Rabbi Isai, first of all, I am going to be in South Africa in 1 week from this Motzei Shabbos. Unfortunately, not in Cape Town. Somebody sent a message to Leon that he's flying his son in from Cape Town to Johannesburg. It's a 2.5 hour flight, I think. So he could be at the live shiur. You take it for granted, Noam. You come every morning, you made a face like that. Some people, they appreciate.
Not like us, came for 6 years.
Most people. Yeah. I have to figure out how to, somebody wrote this email, I have to figure out how to say it. Jeff Rosner is the sponsor of the Masechta for the refuah of his son, Yosef Simcha Chaim ben Sara Chana. They live in my community. The son was diagnosed with, I don't know if I should say all the details. I can't imagine what they're going through. They were told to have a name Chaim. If you can please ask for the oilam to say Amen. When you say Refuah Shlaima, it would be a great deal to them. About me, I can't thank you enough. You've changed my life. Second in a row. I've tried to have chavrusas before Shachris. could never learn on a consistent basis. When I heard of the offer free English Gemara, I asked myself one question: what excuse do I have now? They're providing me free English Gemara. Baruch Hashem, I have not missed a daf. I have not given up Nitflex, although I really don't want to learn the daf. In other words, he's from a while ago. He knows about Nitflex from beginning of Yavamas. I no longer listen to sports radio. Listen to this. I no longer listen to sports radio in the car, but instead listen to the shiur 1.25 speed on my commute to and from work. If you work in order to learn, the entire time you're at work is considered time spent learning. Think what learning the daf does for us. Don't learn in order to work in order to learn. It has a little bit mechavan to what we're going to talk about today. I think this is the kavana, Isaiah. Rabbi Yisai today, daf, you hear? Nachman, don't say you didn't hear this. Daf Amud Aleph today, since he's so into the shiur, is at 5 p.m. today. What do you mean you're not? Torah. Explain to me why not. Give me one good reason. Okay, but let me just explain for a second.
Why are you going to start happening?
Today, we're going to have two shiurim. Today's daf Lamed at 5 o'clock Lamed Aleph. Why? Because of Tisha B'Av. Unfortunately, from the time the shiur is over until the next shiur is 60 hours. 60 hours. And this brings me to another very important thing. I want to beg the Olam. This is a time where the Eitzara creeps in and knocks people off the daf. You're doing so well in Kesubos. It's such a beautiful Masechta. And what happens is, you miss two daf. You miss the daf of Shabbos. There's no shiur on Shabbos. You miss the daf of Sunday. There's no shiur on Sunday. So he tells you, you're already behind. Start catching up. It's already too late. I don't know the sugya. Come live with the rabbinate. Boof. Knocks you off the bandwagon. Stick with it. Even if you miss two dapim, it's not the end of the world. Just jump ahead to daf Lamed Gimel and Akol Beseder. I want to tell you an incredible story that was sent to me by Rabbi Eli Goldvicht. What? Eli? But he called himself Eli, I think. Eliada Goldvicht. Reb Harav Agoyim Reb Eliada Goldvicht, who's the program SCP, what is it called? Smichas Chaver program. So he got my number because he wanted to tell me this Maisa I could say over to the island. It's a great Maisa. A guy came over to Reb Meir Shapiro and said, I don't understand why when you instituted Daf Yomi, why is there a day, Shalom Aleichem, why is there a day of doing Daf Yomi on Tisha B'Av? It's 24 hours and you can't learn. So just go to the next day. So Reb Meir Shapiro looked at him, couldn't believe the question. He said, what do you mean? Daf Yomi is forever. Daf Yomi is for when Mashiach comes also. It's going to continue. So when Mashiach comes, Tisha B'Av is a Yontif. So how can I take it out of the schedule? You have a problem now, right before Mashiach comes, you'll figure it out. You learn afterwards. That's what we do. We learn Matzah Tisha B'Av. So, immediately after Tisha B'Av, I'm going to break the fast. So is Gary. And we're going to come to the Beis Medrash giving a shiur. Because the taxi is waiting for me, I got to go to the airport. So, whoever could be here, I'll be very grateful. If you can't, I completely understand, Nachman. Whenever Tisha B'Av is out.
No cancel flight, I also understand.
The Koilel is sponsored, the zchus, all the new people that joined. The second sponsor of the Koilel, Avi and Rachel Kamiansky, in memory of Rachel's mother, Reza Gittel Bas Esther. Rita should be a Melis Yosher or Militzi Yeshara on behalf of us and our children. Amen. The Masechta is sponsored Lili Nishmas Moshe Elazar ben Nata Shalom and Lili Nishmas Yosef Baruch ben Moshe Aaron, and for that hatzlacha b'chol and for my children. Masechta sponsor number 2, Jeff Rosner. It's zchus of my son Yosef Simcha Chaim ben Sara Chana Refuah Shlaima. Parnas HaChodesh by the Lock and Lebovic families, Lakewood NJ, because Torah is the best gula. Parnas HaChodesh number 2, Shragi Chafetz RL149 is zchus for my family and myself, and for the Tzaddikim of RL Hatzalah. Parnas HaChodesh number 3, Lili Nishmas Chaim ben Moshe. Parnas HaChodesh number 4, Benjy Estie Israel Family in memory of Zayde Moshe Menora and 3 cousins, Sara Klein, Ricki Racheli Menora on the 12th yard side, and the neshama should all have an aliyah. Parnas HaChodesh number 5, Dr. Avrum Epstein in memory of my precious Southern Belle wife, mother and grandmother, Rita Gay Epstein. And when I read it the first time for Daf Lamed Gimel, I basically cried a shtickle. So don't pay attention when you see it then. She was my neighbor. Dr. Epstein lives right below me in the same building, and she was an unbelievable person, always had a smile. She was a perfect grandmother, and she was suddenly nifter. She had the machla in her tongue, and she went for a little bit of a procedure, and the next day she didn't come back. That's how I look at it. So nobody knows. One day here, one day they're gone. And that's why we have to chaperayim when we can. Her neshama should have an aliyah. Hoodie Newman, in honor of her belly, the greatest magazine to ever grace the cover of Ami magazine. I did not read this. I did not read that before. I'm serious. I did not read it. But he's the same Hoodie Newman who sponsored, because I'm not saying it anymore, the greatest bet.
You paid again. So here.
Yosef will slow it down. I'll do slow, whatever. Okay. Rabbi Sai, we're holding Daf Lamed. Shalom Aleichem to all the guests. And if I don't see you until after I come back from South Africa, say Shalom. Yes. I have a shiur for the Olam. I'm going to South Africa, and there are wild animals. So if someone gets eaten by a lion, is that min hashamayim or is that b'dei adam? Whose fault is it? Is it a human being's fault or it's min hashamayim?
It's his fault for going to South Africa.
Question. It's a question I ask.
If you put yourself into a
If a snake, you're walking down the street and a snake bites you and you die, what is it? Now here's another shaila. This, I think everybody knows the answer. What if you get COVID? Whose fault is that? You or min hashamayim? If you believe in COVID, not believe, okay, fine. All right, so these are things we might be learning about today, and many, many unbelievable sugis today. It's unreal. Kesubos is so geschmack. So, Amud Beis, we are holding like 3 lines from the bottom. So is that screen not working? Is there any way that we can turn on that screen? Okay. So as you see on the screen, here we go. We mentioned yesterday the machlokes between, let me just put this here until that screen goes on. Shina Timni and Reb Shimon ben Menasya. Shina Timni says that the word siya, v'lo siya li'isha, is havaya, meaning that you have to make a kiddushin. So as long as you can make kiddushin, you're okay. If you can't make kiddushin, then the kid is a mamzer. Reb Shimon ben Menasya says no, you have to ru'uya l'kaima. You have to be able to remain married to her. So the Gemara says, what's the nafkamina? Now, just maybe the pshat is a little bit of pshat. You know, we say one of the most famous Sheva Brachas Torah ever. Ish, Isha. The difference between an Ish and an Isha is the Yud and the K. Zachu, Shechina Shari B'neihem. So over here also it's a lashon of avaya. It has to be a woman that has avaya, has a legal marriage that HaKadosh Baruch Hu could be part of it. Otherwise, if she doesn't have avaya, she doesn't have a marriage, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not there. Fine. What is the difference between the two? So the Gemara wanted to say the difference between Shimon HaTimni and Reb Shimon ben Menasya is a case of somebody who's ma'anis, a mamzeres. Because a mamzeres is a iser lav. There's only a lav, not a iser karas. However, you cannot, the kiddushin is chal, so according to Shimon HaTimni, it works. According to Reb Shimon ben Menasya, you can't remain married to her. Okay, so then the Gemara says, but what about according to Rabbi Simon? So here's the next chart. The next chart, you see, we had this in Yavamas. What is a mamzer? What creates a mamzer? So we had a few different here. We have Shimon HaTimni, that little bit of our sugya. Chiyuv Karas. Rabbi Shua says Chiyuv Misas Bezdin. And then there's 3 shittas in Rebbe Akiva. The Mishnah over there says it's a lav that's a kurva, like a sister, a mother, a kurva. Then comes Rabbi Simai. That's the Gemara's question yesterday. According to Rabbi Simai, any lav, nothing to do with being related, any lav, so even a mamzeres would create a mamzer, a child of mamzer. Because since you're not allowed to marry a mamzeres, it's a lav, would create a mamzer. According to Rabbi Shevav, we're holding in Rabbi Shevav right now, we're getting to Rabbi Shevav, but at the end of the sugya, Rabbi Shevav says, even if it's also for you to marry a woman with an asay, not a lav, the Torah doesn't say that you shouldn't marry her, but we medayik it and it's an asay, that also creates a mamzer. Okay. Says the Gemara, Ul Rabbi Shevav, the Omar Bayu v'nitzvach ala Akiva ben Yosef. Let's scream at Rabbi Akiva. Oh, now I can put it here. Now, what's the simple meaning of this? Anytime you're not allowed to be married with this woman, the kid is a mamzer. In other words, and I forgot the step before, so we want to say that nafkamina is, according to Rabbi Shevav, according to Rabbi Simai, it would be an almana l'kayin gadol. Almana l'kayin gadol is an asay. It's a diuk. It's an asay. So even if you hold that every lav creates a mamzer, but not an almana l'kayin gadol. Now the Gemara says, but according to Rabbi Shevav, even an almana l'kayin gadol, which is an asay, right? Any bia that you can have, whether it's because of a lav or because of an asay, creates a mamzer. So then there's no difference between these two, Shimon HaTimni and Reb Shimon Manasseh. You can never marry anybody. There's no situation where you have an afkamina between Havaya and Kiyum. Says the Gemara, what? Besula, yeah. No. It's a lav, you're right. But the Torah says specifically that it doesn't create mamzerim. The Torah says specifically that it creates a chalal, yishkoyach rosh koil. Zog the Gemara. But according to Rabbi Shevav, that everything is mamzer. Kol she'ein lo bia. There's no, everything is in the category of mamzer. My benayu. Says the Gemara, top of Lamed Aleph, chayvei asay. So now, the Gemara says no. Okay, so going back to this pshat over here. Let's go back for a second. Mistake. Erase everything I just said. Over here, we're not holding yet by asay. We're holding about a nafkamina, an almana l'kayin gadol, or a grusha to a kayin hedyot, where the Torah says specifically it doesn't create a mamzer, according to the shita, but it's a lav. So that will be an nafkamina. Says the Gemara, but according to Rabbi Shevav, it's not true. Every lav creates a mamzer, even an almana to a kayin gadol. Okay, so we have another category called chai v'asei, mitzri v'adoimi. The Torah says, lo yisav adoimi ki yochichu, lo yisav mitzri ki ger yisav aretz. So reasons why you shouldn't be merachek the mitzri. So after 3 generations, dar shlishi yavi laim b'kal Hashem. Meaning, it doesn't say in the Torah, don't marry a mitzri and a daimi. Where does it say in the Torah you can't marry a mitzri and a daimi? It says, do marry, in the positive, you could marry them after 3 generations. So I went to yeshiva and I learned, after 3 generations I could, that means after 2 and 1 generations I can't. But that's only a diuk. So it's lav abba mechlal asay. I'm being medayik a lav from the asay of yavay laim b'kal Hashem. You could marry them. So it's a chayv asay to marry Mitzri and Adoimi. So Memela, according to Reb Manasseh, it doesn't create a mamzer. According to Shimon HaTimni, it would. Says the Gemara, Ila Puke. Now we have the Hanichal Rabbi Shevav, Ila Puke Mitayim the Rabbi Simoi Kasi. Now we're not so sure what Rabbi Shevav holds. In this chart over here, we're saying Rabbi Shevav holds as a klal, even as says. But it's possible that that's not what Rabbi Shevav is saying. It's possible that Rabbi Shevav is just coming to be mechulek on Rabbi Simai. Or what we said before. We said that an almana l'kayin gadol doesn't create a mamzer. Rabbi Shevav says not true. All chayv lavim create a mamzer, even almana l'kayin gadol. He wasn't talking about an asay. Maybe. So if he wasn't talking about a chiv asay, now we have a good nafkemina, the chiv asay. But if Rabbi Shevav is saying that no matter what, look at the lashon. It says, Kol she'ein loy bia b'Yisrael avlad mamzer. Anytime you can't be married to this woman, I don't care if it's an asay, I don't care if it's a lav. It creates a mamzer. So, Ila pukim et hamid Rabbi Simoy kasi shapir. If he's not really saying anything about asay, he's just talking to Rabbi Simoy, and he's telling Rabbi Simoy, you're wrong. Every lav creates a mamzer, but every asay doesn't. So now we have a great nafkamina. A mitzri and a daimi, they're an asay. But if Rebbe Yeshev holds that everybody, even a mitzri and a daimi, which is only an asay, also creates a mamzer, where's the nafkamina between Rav Shimon ben Asya and Shimon HaTimni? So we do have one case. Okay, here's the psukim. Pasuk Yudal says that a kohen cannot marry an almana and a grusha. Over here we have a woman who's not an almana, not a grusha. She's a bu'ula. She's with a man. But it says, Vuhu isha b'psula yikach. So you see yikach is in green. It's an asay. He should marry a psula. Meaning that if he doesn't marry psula, he's over on an asay. It's very, very interesting what's going on here. We have a woman who's a psula, but she's a bu'ula, and she's not an almana and a grusha. It could be a riddle. Think about it for a second. She's a psula, she is a bu'ula, and she's not an almana and a grusha. Okay, so first of all, she's not an almana and a grusha because she's single. She never got married. But how's she a psula? Because the only what? No, that she's not a psula. That she's not a psula according to one shita. Huh? Bu'ula shaloi kedarka, says Rashi. That what? When it comes to a kohen gadol marrying her, he's not permitted. It's considered a bu'ula. But when it comes to a knas, she's considered a psula. You hear what's going on here? She's in between. She's not 100% the bu'ula because when it comes to knas, you have to be a psula. Remember that we said yesterday. You have to be a psula. So how do you have a psula that's a bu'ula? Okay. But what did we gain, Rabbi? So what did we gain? We just said a second ago that any chiyuv asay is no good. It creates mamzerim. Why would this be any different? This is also isra asay. V'hu isha psula yikach. Says Gemara, umayshna. This is an assay that only one person in the world is over on the kohen gadol. So Memela, this is not what. Then we have a good enough community. Fine. Next, if you were spacing out, or this went over your head, we're doing Daf Yomi now. Brand new sugya. Omer Rav Chizda, hakol moedim bebal anida shemeshalim knas. Here we have a case. Doesn't matter if Reb Shimon HaTimni, Reb Shimon Menasya, whoever it is, Rabbi Sheva, whoever it is, they're going to agree that anybody that's ma'anas anida, he's chayav knas, even though anida is what? Karas. B'bal anida shemshalom knas. L'man da'omar yesh ba'havaya, honam yesh ba'havaya. Guess what? You can marry anida. L'man da'omar ru'y l'kaima. Guess what? You don't have to divorce your wife every time she's in nida. You're allowed to remain married to her. Honami really kaima. End the story. Okay, so we have hatzlacha. A nida could receive a knas. Yeah. We're talking about oinus. The Mishnah is talking about oinus. A knas for the oinus. Now, our Mishnah, we said yesterday, our Mishnah comes to exclude Reb Shimon HaTimni, Reb Shimon Menasya. Here. Our mission that says that a sister, if somebody's ma'anis his own sister, Rahman al-Islam, there's a knas, even though she's karas. And now this is launching us into a beautiful sugya. The sign of Ibn Churim ben Akona haya oises yom kippurim kishabes l'tashlumim. Look at this. If this is Shabbos, okay, and a guy takes his friend's wheat and burns it. He's not even here today.
He was here earlier.
He was here earlier, but because of the Navi, he sponsored for your wife $10,000 for the shiur, and he left. Givaldik. But anyway, you see what's going on here? There's two things. We're talking about Kamle b'derabba minei. It's Shabbos, and he's chayiv misa for making a fire. But at the same time that he made the fire, burning wheat, he burnt his friend's wheat. He's soyer gadash chaveroi. So he's potter. He doesn't have to pay the $20 that the wheat costs because he's going to get the death penalty for doing that. So anytime you have two oinshim, a chomer and a kal, death penalty versus $20, he's going to get the death penalty, and he's potter from the $20. Says the Chana, but on Yom Kippur, you don't get the death penalty. What do you get on Yom Kippur if you burn somebody's gadish? You get kares, not a physical misa b'dei adam, only b'dei shamayim, only. It's very bad, but it's b'dei shamayim. So listen to this. A guy, I was thinking about it. A guy that doesn't believe, he's unaffiliated, he'll say, listen, I burned, my friend's house down. Comes to Bezin, doesn't say you're potter. You know why? Because you're getting kares today. It was Yom Kippur, you burned your friend's house down, you're potter. $300,000, potter. He's like, yes, I don't believe in this whole Yom Kippur, and I'm potter. Okay, interesting. Ma Shabbos mitzchayv ben afshoy potter ben tashlumim av Yom Kippur. Av Yom Kippurim mitzchayv ben afshoy potter ben tashlumim. It says in Reuben Churim ben Chana. Listen to this. Since you are chayiv kares, you're potter from the tashlumim. So what does that have to do with us? Since you're chayiv kares on your sister, you're potter from the knas. So he's mechuluk in our Mishnah. He doesn't go well with our Mishnah. How do we know this whole idea of kamli b'derabbanei? So that the Gemara is going to bring in a second. But here's the pasuk. Two people were fighting, and they hit a pregnant woman, and she lost her child, but she doesn't die. If she doesn't die, then you pay for those children, the value of the child that you killed. But what if she dies? If she dies, then you die. You get chiyuv misa. Then you don't have to pay. There's no anish yanish. It's only because of a laya asain, then anish yanish. But if yesh asain, then no anish yanish.
They hit the lady, wasn't on purpose, right?
No, they were aiming at somebody else and they hit her. So that we said, that was the sugi yesterday. That according, you do get killed. This is machlokes. It's machlokes whether you get killed or not. Miskaven laharig zev, that's what I was saying yesterday. In American law, not. That's what I was saying. Remember I said drive-by shooting? Oh no, maybe that was enough. I'm confused now. I gave another shiur. Okay, sorry. That's Daf Yomi. Okay. Yeah, did we learn yesterday? And you still want to come over? You see, my head is like, okay, fine. Zog the Gemara. No, that's what happens. It was very hard. You have to do 5 daf ahead, and I could only do 1 daf ahead. So to give a shiur, okay, whatever. We had to do what we had to do because I realized I'm going to be on the plane at 7:15 in the morning, Monday morning. Okay, it's a different story. We'll talk about it a different time. But it doesn't ruin my streak. Anybody that says ruin my streak, I don't want to talk to them. Says the Gemara, my time there the Chana. Amar Abaya. Asam b'dei Adam. Nemar asam b'dei Adam. So here you see in this pasuk, this happened by a human being. Asam. A tragedy. V'lo asam. V'nemar asam b'dei Shomayim. Where does it say asam b'dei Shomayim? By Yaakov Avinu. V'yoyber le'yer b'ni imachem. Ki achiv meis. His brother Yosef died already. He's the only one left from that family. And a tragedy will happen to him. I don't want to let him go to Mitzrayim. So what's Yaakov Avinu saying? The Gemara understands Yaakov Avinu saying that's going to be a tragedy. You're not going to kill him, but a tragedy min hashamayim could occur to him. So ma'asayin, what? Fatality, some sort of fatality b'dei shamayim. Ma'asayin mil'amar b'dei adam potem ben tashlumim. Just like by v'nakfu ishahara, by this case, it says, unfortunately, the pasuk anish anish. You only pay when there's no asayin. But if there is a asayin, if there was a fatality, the woman died, you don't pay for the baby. So Meila, when there's death, this is the death penalty. Kares. Min hashamayim, you don't pay for the gadish. If there's a death penalty, min hashamayim, for being ma'anas a sister, there's no knas. Here, the famous Gemara that tzinim pachim, a cold, COVID, all these things are b'dei shamayim. The Gemara says, Dilma al arya V'ganvei dibdei adam ninu. Perhaps it happened through human intervention, through a lion, through ganovim, bandits. I have a picture here, I think. Oh. If a guy goes over there, does this, and this lion turns around and eats him, whose fault is it? It's b'dei adam. It's committing suicide. That's what the Gemara says. Huh?
Why are you allowed to do it?
Because the risk is very minimal. You take your risk. Actually, there's a guy from Yerushalayim, I don't want to say his name, because maybe he's not the best guy in the world, but he went there. He was a frum guy, or looked frum back then. He went to this place, and the lion bit his hand. And he had to have he had a procedure. Okay. You know that most people don't die. And if you don't, they tell you, don't put your hand on its head, because then it feels like you're trying to rule over it, and then they'll bite your hand. They tell you what to do. They say, whack it in the stomach as hard as you want, and he likes it. So, pam, pam. It's gewaldig. But when he opens up his mouth like that, and he's about to snap down, don't put your hand in there. Okay. I told you about the sharks, right? They said as I was about to jump off we went shark diving, and my wife was with me, and the guy says, I want to tell you a true story that happened last week, and please don't do this. He says, if you try to feed the shark, you stick your camera out the shark, you could get bit. Last week, a shark bit the guy's hand off. And so my wife started crying, and as she started crying, I jumped into the water, because I knew in 2 minutes she's not going to let me do it, so I was the first one off the boat. There's the water, you see the fins coming around the boat. They go, circle the boat, it's geschmack. I didn't touch the shark, I didn't feed the shark. Sorry. Who? Says the Gemara, who told you that Yaakov Avinu was telling his sons, be careful from Binyamin for the B'dei Shamayim? Maybe he's telling them, be careful of the bandits, which are B'dei Adam. And then we don't have a raya that B'dei Shamayim, that the chorus is B'dei Shamayim, that Yechayev Tashlumim. Otu Yaakov Ahazer Nachamal. We have Xer Shav between Adam and Shamayim. What's Shamayim? Yaakov Avinu. But if Yaakov Avinu is Adam, then we don't have Xer Shava from Adam to Shamayim. We only have Xer Shava from Adam to Adam. How do you know Yaakov Avinu was warning his children about Shamayim? Something that happened, maybe a fatality will happen in Shamayim. Maybe it was B'dei Adam. Says Gemara, Yaakov Ahazer, Ahalo Yazer, Yaakov Akomi Yazer. In what he was warning his children was some Shamayim, some Adam. Be careful there. I don't want my son to get lost. Sometimes it's B'dei Adam, sometimes it's B'dei Shamayim. Bottom line is, don't take him to Mitzrayim. B'tzin and Pachim B'dei Adam, B'dei Shamayim, are cold and fever is B'dei Shamayim. V'atay Yaakov B'dei Shamayim, chutz mitzin and Pachim. Everything is Mina Shamayim besides colds, says Rashi. Shepa'amim shebayim b'pshia. You go out without a mask or whatever, you go into a place with a bunch of COVID, you're going to get COVID. It's a pshia. Go to a wedding or whatever. Pshia. Somebody who could watch his own soul will stay away from them. In other words, it's in your hand to stay away from it. So you have to see Taisus here for a second. Beautiful Taisus. The second Taisus from the bottom, very large Taisus, but very easy to find. The last line, basically, 2 lines up. It says like this. Everything is in the hands of Hashem besides Yerushalayim. It's not just Tzin and Pachim, it's also Yerushalayim. That's a different sugi, says Taisus. That's talking about a kid that's born. As a kid is born, a kid is a decree whether a person can be wealthy or poor. Gibar chalash, tipesh chacham, aval, tzaddik, v'rosh aloi. I'm reading this Taisus, I'm thinking to myself, we are almost punkt fakert. We work all day for something that it's not in our hand. We can't change it. We have Xera, whether they're going to be wealthy or poor, how much money we're going to make. So what do? We work and work and work all day long to change something that's not changeable. It's not in our hands. On the account of learning Torah and Avodah, which is in our hands. We could be bigger tzaddikim, learn more Torah, do more avodah. And instead, what do? We try to change something that's not in our hands. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is geyser on a baby, he's going to be ani. Forget about it. Don't work 18 hours a day. You're going to be ani anyway. But a tzaddik, that you can change. Okay. You got to be careful. It says over here also you have to be careful with your health, with things that are in your hands. Do you know that on death row, I read this once, on death row, they clean the skin before they do the injection. So there shouldn't be any germs. But why? Because maybe they'll take them off death row. Maybe right after they put the needle, Shema is that. Fine. You got to be careful. Yeah. Zog the Gemara. If you get eaten by a lion, that's human intervention? Rav Yosef, listen to this, Rabbi. So you're not going to believe this line coming up here. Miyayim shecharav beis hamikdash. Tisha B'av. Miyayim shecharav beis hamikdash. Ava pisha batlu Sanhedrin. Arba mises loy batlu. This is an unbelievable thing. Everybody take this into account. You got to remember this. Even though we don't have a Sanhedrin of 71 to be done anybody limisa, but nevertheless, in our day and age, in 2022, there's misas bezdin. How? Habatlu, but at the end of the day, there's nobody that's going to kill us. There's no bezdin. Ella, Daf Yomi Beis, dinar ba misas bezdin loy batlu, misas loy batlu. Mishin is chayiv skila, oy noifel min agag. If somebody is chayiv skila, he's going to fall off a roof. Oy chayav doy rastoy. Yeah, there's a guy, he fell off a roof. So people started running. They asked him, what happened? What happened? He's like, I don't know. I just got here. You know? People will fall off a roof. Why? Because the chayiv misa, the chayiv skila. That's skila. Skila is throwing stones at somebody. But first they throw him off a roof. If he doesn't die, they throw stones. Or an animal. Here. So you see, chayiv derastoy. What's chayiv derastoy? A lion will come and kill him. What is that? B'dei shomayim. B'dei shomayim. It says mefurish, that's b'dei shomayim.
Only if you didn't go to a place where the lion's going to eat him.
That's, yeah.
If you go to a place, that's not b'dei shomayim, it's b'dei other. You put yourself.
So today we have cars. Today we have terrorists. We have all sorts of things. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in a second. Umishin is chayiv sreifa. If somebody's chayiv sreifa for naveri did, or noifel b'dleika, he'll be burnt in a fire. Or nachash makishoy, the venom of the snake will go into his body like hot lead. Mishin is chayav ariga. If somebody is chayav beheading, or nimsel malchus, or you listen by him alav, a bad guy will take care of him, or the government. Umishin is chayav chenek, strangulation, or tevebanar, he'll drown. Or maze besurnachi, Asker, the famous Asker in the time of the Gemara, a disease, a lung disease. Interesting, the Tur paskins that if somebody dies from drowning, you're allowed to go be menachem aval. What do you mean you're allowed to go? He died. Why shouldn't? Because you would think that maybe, the preacher says, maybe he was chayiv Mrs. Bezdin, that's why he drowned. And if you're chayiv Mrs. Bezdin, there's no avelos. Unbelievable. I saw also the Chasam Sofer, somebody asked him, maybe he's a chayiv Mrs. Bezdin. So the Chasam Sofer was upset, sort of. I think it sounds from the Lashon. He's like, it doesn't say in the Gemara, the Lashon that Misha Nimser Lamalchos is Chayiv Hariga. It says Misha Chayiv Hariga Nimser Lamalchos. In other words, sometimes people that are Chayiv this, they get killed by the Malchos. Not every single person that went to the Malchos, not every single person that drowns is a Chayiv Chenek. Sometimes a Chayiv Chenek will drown. You have to make that distinction, says the Chasam Sofer. Says the Gemara, by the way, and that's what Nachman was saying. The Sefer Hasidim says that a person who's chayiv, he knows for a fact, a person knows the Averi did, he knows the Averi that he did, he's chayiv chenek. He should stay away from water, says the Sefer Hasidim. He shouldn't go on boats. A guy that's chayiv skila was Michal Shabbos when he was younger and he didn't do tshuva, whatever, he shouldn't go next to a lion. You don't know what, a chayiv could kill him. Okay? Sponsored by Moshe Hornan of Zach Darak, Rocklin, and Lenny Lerner, CPA. And Yankel Cohen, the official MDY MSP. I'm getting to Hoodie Newman here. Hoodie Newman, in honor of Eli, the real greatest Jewish basketball player who ever lived. Don't sponsor any more of those. Okay. Elo epoch. So you have to say the opposite. Aryeh vegan vebidei shomayim. When a lion attacks a human being, you see it's mina shomayim, tzinim pachim. But a cold and a fever, that's b'dei adam. That's in your hands to make sure you put on the coat. You stay. I don't know if the coat, but stay away from people that have the flu, etc., etc. Now, we said that according to Refuah Shlaima, if you're chayiv kares, you potter from knas. A person who's with a sister doesn't pay knas. Why? One pshat we said Abayis says asa nasim have exer shava, and now says Rava Amar Taima the Rebbe Refuah Shlaima mehacha v'imhalei mi'alimim amaretz esenei min ha'ishahu b'sita mizar l'moilach. If people turn their eyes away, and this is, I have a dilemma because this idea of not going over to somebody and saying, hey, you're doing a bad thing, it's usher, it's a very American thing, it's a very Americanish thing, it's not midos tovos to walk over to somebody and say, hey, you're doing the wrong thing. But it's the Torah tells us you have to go over to somebody, we're all in the same boat, we're all sinking together, you have to. But Bizman Hazeh, ask your local rabbi. Bizman Hazeh, we're like tzanim, and we don't take that rebuke well, and we yell back, and so maybe we don't have the chiyuv. But the idea to go and save another Jew from doing an isser, that's in the Torah. Don't turn away from your eyes from them and look the other direction like they do on a subway in New York. You see, and if you do, I'm going to take care of that guy myself. I heard once, if you do teichacha, you should first daven hard, and you have to be mechav l'shem shamayim. You can't just go over the guy out of anger. Hey, you spoken shul. You have to, whatever. Amr Torah. Kar shali kemisa shalachem l'mashal. Amr Torah. Kar shali kemisa shalachem. There was davening. It was l'shem shamayim, the whole thing. Kemisa shalachem. Ma misa shalachem poter min hatashlumim. Av kar shali poter min hatashlumim. Over there, we're talking about the word kares. Vichrati oisoy is kares. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, my kares is just like your misa. In other words, says Rava over here, you see the idea. Somebody who's chayiv kares, he's poter min hatashlumim. If he's chayiv because he's with the sister, he doesn't pay a knas to the father. Ma'ike ben Rava l'Abaya, they both have good pshatim. Why, if you're chayiv kares, according to Refuah Shlaima, you're poter from a knas. This is an amazing sugya. If you steal truma from a kohen, it's his truma. You owe him money. You owe him $1 for the apple. But at the same time, when you eat it, you're chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. You put it in your mouth. You're eating it exactly where in the mouth that the Gemara is going to discuss in a second. So, since you're chayiv misa, it's very severe, so you should be potter from a knas. But Rava says not misa. Rava doesn't talk about misa. Rava talks about kares. What's the difference? Kares, says Rashi, goes on your children as well. Lo yaleinu. The children also die young. You don't have children, whatever. He's talking about kares. If kares, you don't have to pay a knas. But misa, just plain you die, not your kids, maybe you do have to pay a knas. That's enough gemina. Zar shalcha truma, la'abaya potter, l'Rava chayiv. Rava says it's not included in that pasuk v'chrati. As the Gemara, la'abaya potter v'amar avchiz d'moder v'mechum v'nakana b'goynev chel b'shel chaveri v'acholoi shu chayav. Listen to this. A guy steals chaylev. It's also to eat treif v'acholoi shu chayav. He stole, and at the same time he ate chaylev. 2 actions in one shot. He's chayav to pay for the chaylev, and even though he got an avera. He's chayiv misa. Shukfan is chayiv big neva. Koyim shabali lisa chaylev. Okay, he's chayiv 2 things. Alma, what do you see? The meidna the agbe kanya, unbelievable sugis for boys. This is so gewaldig. Alma, the meidna the agbe. The moment he picked it up, it became his. He stole it. Mischay ben avshoy lo have adachale. Wait a minute. It took place at 2 different times. There was an action of being koinet, and then chayiv misa later on. Hochanami, what? It's a different action. Yeah. One is picking up and one is eating. It happened 2 different times because of 2 different actions. Over here also, by the truma, he lifted it up, he stole it. Later on, 5 minutes later, he ate it, then he's chayiv misa. But what's the connection? It's two different things. It says, you have to say that his friend put it in his mouth. So he didn't steal it until he started eating it. We'll see in a second. But there was no lifting here. There's no kinyan hagba, which made it gneva, and then 5 minutes later is achila. It's achila and stealing all in one shot, in even one mice, like he said, just by eating it. So if kivin delase, kanya, you're chayiv to pay when you start chewing. But you're only chayiv misa when you swallow. By the way, very interesting shaila that's negeh to everybody. Matzah on Pesach. The matzah has to be yours. You're eating by your father's house. It's not your matzah. Why is it your matzah? When did he give it to you? Your father gives you the matzah before Pesach? If he's a Talmud Chacham and he knows the halacha and everybody who is listening, he'll give it to you every Pesach. My father never remembered to give me the matzah and he's a big Talmud Chacham. So they say that you're kind of through chewing, you have to know that when does it become yours? It becomes yours when you chew it, and you become the mitzvah when you swallow it. It's in the sugya right here.
You can't give it to you at the seder.
No, it's already yontif. You can't give matana. No, it's a problem.
What has to be yours?
It has to be shalochem. It has to be your matzah. It can't be somebody else's matzah. You can't be miyotzah. I could go into your house and eat your matzah and be my kind of mitzvah. Okay.
That you could do with matana.
Okay, fine. Not negeh. Not matzah. Don't be kind and do whatever you want. I'm just saying it's interesting. A little negeh to the sugya. Soif kim la'asik kanya. B'sayim actually have had the bala. By the way, when I was doing the Gadish thing, it came to like we don't have a Gadish, so we don't relate. But what if you steal somebody's cigarette? You light up a cigarette on Shabbos. So you're over on Shabbos and you're stealing the cigarette at the same time. That's a good. All these things are negeh to us in a different. You're saying. Ask the Gemara, what exactly is going on here? Tell me the exact situation. If he could spit it out, neheder, let him spit it out. And if he doesn't spit it out, then he's mazik. And he's mazik, then he's chayev. Eloi matzi lahadura, am I chayev? Why is he chayev misa if he can't put it back? If he can't spit it out, his friend put it in. Why is he chayev misa? He can't. It's a one-way street. He could spit it out, but then it becomes more. This is very interesting and tough. It becomes disgusting, repulsive. It becomes mos, and therefore you're not chayiv in gneva because the owner is not going to want to use it anymore. But he's chayiv misa when he eats it. Explains Rashi because there's a hana for his body. There's a hana for his body, but the guy doesn't want it anymore. It's not worth anything. So why does he have to pay for the hana? So you have to say that he does want it a little bit so he can feed it to his animal. It's dakazdik. It's very dakazdik. Okay, but you understand the idea again. We're talking about that he could barely spit it up. He could, but if he spits it up, nobody's going to eat it anymore because who wants to eat something that was in somebody's mouth?
So you're saying he's a mazik but not a gambler.
Correct. Well, and he's having hana from it, but not really stealing. He's having hana for his body because it went in his body, now he has good nutrients. So for that hana he has to pay. His friend who doesn't want it anymore, but wants it a little bit so he can feed it to his dog. And he's chayiv misa when he's by swallowing it. You don't have to say it's all the way in the back of his throat. Any liquid that goes into his mouth, it's already not edible. Nobody else is going to drink from it. And Rav Ashi Omar, just one final thing, beautiful thing before. By the way, today again, Erev Shabbos 5 o'clock. If I'm ready. What's happening? This is two actions, two separate actions. You hear? We're going to go into it. He ate truma, but at the same time, he's ripping up somebody else's clothing. Chayiv misa, ganav. With his hand, he's ripping. With his mouth, he's being over this. Have a wonderful day, wonderful Shabbos, meaningful Tisha B'Av. We'll see you, Be'ez Hashem, today, Matzah Tisha B'Av, v'chulu.